Chord here. Today we're going to talk about movable chord shapes. And movable chord shapes are a super important part of getting better at the ukulele. Without them, you can't play harder songs, and you can't play in other keys. So we may as well get started today, and I'll just show you an easy way to take all the open shape chords that we have. We're going to look at the chord families, 1, 4, 5, super easy major chords with a little dominant 7 in there, and then we're going to move all those shapes up just 2 frets to see how we need to cover those frets to play in a new key. All right, and they can be moved all the way up the neck as you go, but today we're just going to do the open chords and then the 2nd fret chords, okay? So let's start at example 1 there. Take a look, and this is C, the 4 chord F, back to C, and then G7, back to C. It's a little cadence that basically lets our ear know that we're in the key of C by going 1, 4, 1, 5, 1. Very simple. Okay, now we're going to go to the G family, G-shaped chord in the open. The 4 chord is going to be the C again. And we're going to go back to D7 this time. The open Hawaiian D7 type there. So, your ear is in the key of G now, with that little cadence. Nice. Let's take it to the next one is D, and this one, most people play it just kind of have to scrunch in there. Some people do a little bit of this in the first position with just 2 fingers, but I'll do it with all 3. 2, 2, 2, open. G is the 4 chord of the next one. And now A7th, that's that easy one, just with 1 finger right there. And now I can hear the key of D. Very nice, okay? Another chord shape that we use in open is the A family. Here's the A guy. And we're going to use A, go back to D for the 4 chord. And here's our E7th. Back to A. The next line of chords is the F stuff. Now this one has 1 bar chord that shows up in the middle of nowhere. F, B flat. This is one of the first chords that we hate, that we encounter, but it's not too bad. It's got a mini bar in it, just 2 of those, and then it's basically, if you look at it, it's an A shape that's been moved up 1 bar, 1 fret there, okay? A, moved up 1 fret, lock down those 2 strings. Now I've covered all that, and it becomes a B flat. It's just a half step. Everything on a fretted instrument like this just goes a half step at a time. If you did a piano, it would be all of the white and black keys. So let's take this guy, F, B flat, F, C7, nice easy chord right there, and then back to F. So with just those chords, I can play hundreds of songs in quite a few different keys to fit the voice. But if you really want to get better, here's where we jump to example 2, okay? And we're going to start with the C shape. Take your C chord, but play with your pinky. Now what we're going to do is go boink, boink, and move it up 2 frets. And now that open strings has to come up 2 frets as well. This is where we start our first bar there in the C shape. And that gives us a D chord. We're going to play exactly the same chord family. It's pretty easy, okay? So let's try this. Couple pointers about getting good bars and getting all these closed chord positions to work. A good bar is kind of hard when you first start. A lot of people end up with their thumb up here, and if you notice, it's pretty hard to get to a good position where you can actually make it flat. And if you do try to make it flat like this, it'll go like that. So what I like to do is roll it just a little bit back, so you're using some of the bone so it can't go flat on the fret. The way that looks here is I'm going to put it there and I roll it back just a little bit, if you look at that. All right, so I'm behind the fret, just barely, not on top of it, but I started by being kind of on top of it and I roll it back. It makes me get a little bit of a curve to it, okay? So the very tip of it hits, anchors, and then I'm just going to pull it down to right before where that knuckle starts. That's a D6 chord, of course, because I'm just playing a bar. Now put your pinky on 5 up here, right on the tip, and it can go at an angle, just like that. You don't have to always try to make your fingers go straight. In fact, the best thing to do is to have these two up and down and these two a little bit at an angle. So check that out. All right, now that's a D. The 4 chord is in the F shape, as you notice. All right, and that's actually a G chord. See, there's a G. We just, and then put the other note on. Back to the C, G7 shape. Now you can either use the bar here, or you can let it go for a second and just use your first finger, kind of at that nice angle. Alrighty, the next is the G shape. Now if we move this G shape up, I'm gonna have to get rid of this guy and use these 3. I move those up, and then lightly put your first finger back. Now if you try to put your first finger down first and reach, a lot of times you end up with really weird angles that don't work terribly well. So just put this part of the chord on first, right there. That's a G shape, as you can see. And then reach back lightly to the 2nd fret, 1st string. And you got a chord in the G shape, okay? Pretty cool. Now the 4 chord is D, but we already know how to do that in the C shape. So that's pretty cool. Now go back to this guy. Now this time we're gonna play a D7 shape, which is gonna become an E7. So here's a D7. I'm gonna not use the first 2 fingers. And slide it up and then put the bar down, okay? So it's exactly what we played here, just moved up 2 frets. Play it all together, and we have and it's more important to understand the shapes and get used to them than it is to actually play them well at first. It might take a little bit of work to get these to hang in there, but once you know them and can get to them, they'll start to sink in. Believe me, it works, okay? So the next shape that we're gonna look at is the D shape open. If you go up 2, we encounter our infamous E major chord, which, you know, first time you try and play this, you don't think it's gonna happen at all. I remember that. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna play a D chord, once again with the other 3 fingers, not your first finger. 2, 3, and then your pinky here. Now move that up 2 bars, or 2 frets, I mean, and then put your index lightly behind, just like we did with the G. Now we got this guy, an A in the G shape, and this is the easy A7 style chord. Just a bar and 1 finger, and that's a B7 now. Cool. All right, let's go on. The next one that comes to us is going to be our A shape, which turns into the bad B flat, which now is going to turn into a B. And that's actually in an A shape, as you can see. We've moved up. I'm going to play without my first finger again to B. Now B is the 1. E, your favorite, and mine, is the 4 chord. Then B. Now here's the one that was an E7th. And we have to cover all 4 fingers, so it's going to be 2nd, ring, 1st, then pinky. And it's going to be 3, 4, 2, 4. This is an F sharp chord. A lot of times we'll see an F chord show up and we learn it this way, so that's actually in that E7 shape. You see that? Here's our F sharp. So in the key of B, 1, 4, 1, 5, and 1. Nice. And we got one more to do now. We're going to do the key of F shapes. So here's F. That was a pretty easy one. We had to add the B flat to that. And then easy there. Now when we move it up, we're actually going to be in the key of G right here. We've seen this shape already before, and they repeat themselves over and over, as you'll find. Now this one is a little tricky because you have to move up just one fret to make that A shape. And this is a C chord. Now we're going to make the D7th in that C7 shape. And back to G in the F shape. Jump up one fret, back, and then that's that chord family. Once you know all these basic ones, there's only 5 families for this stuff. So as you build on top of them, you'll find that they enhance each other, especially if you're learning songs that have harder chords in them and you suddenly said, well, there's an F sharp chord there. Oh, I'll just use that E. Yeah, there you go. I've got an F sharp suddenly. You know, if I need an E flat chord, E flat 7th or something, what am I going to do? Well, here's a D7. Here's a D7. Boop. Bounce that up a half step. I got an E flat 7th chord. So easy and very, very useful. Okay, so we got one more thing to cover today, and that is to look at the major chord shapes as they go all the way up the neck. If you have a soprano uke, you'll probably run out of room by the time we're done, so I got my long neck one here today to show you. Here's a C chord. Now watch what happens. That C right there is going to connect to the A shape. And then we have a C in the A shape. Now this C right here, put your first finger there and we have that G shape that we were looking at. This is a C chord. Now that little clump right there is part of the F shape. We just take a bar there and put this here. Sometimes I'll put my pinky out to find the next note. I put my first finger there and play the evil D shape. And as you can see, that's all in a line that sets us up right to play the C chord again at the 12th fret. And that's exactly the same shape as that one. So if you can learn one on each side of these, at least to start with, then you'll have 3 of them. And then every time you encounter another one, just like, I'll be playing a song sometimes, and automatically I'll just make myself change chords. C, 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 da-dum, bum, dum, da-dum, dum, dum. Here's F. Just use a different shape to play the song that you already know, and get those lined up. C. You don't have to be good at this. All you have to do is notice where they are and make those connections. And there you go, movable chord shapes, all right? Enjoy your lesson, and thanks for sticking with me. It's not the easiest thing, but once you really get into it, it'll make you a way better musician and a way better ukulele player. Thanks.